Rape and murder, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, are perhaps the basest crimes of all. And they are never more heinous than when the victim is a child. A young girl whose life, full of expectation and promise, is cruelly snuffed out to satisfy the casual lust of a passing stranger. Much of what you will hear will be harsh and unpleasant, simply because there is no pleasant or gentle way of inquiring into so vile a crime.
The case you're about to see is a fictional one, but the procedure is authentic. The characters are played by actors, but the jury is selected from members of the public. David Finch is on trial for the rape and murder of schoolgirl Deborah Lester as she walked home across a lonely common near Fulchester. Counsel for the prosecution, Mr. Marriott, has just concluded his opening address.
Members of the jury, my first witness is Mr. Ernest Guthrie, but I'm going to read you his evidence. The reason for this is that what he says in his statement is not disputed by the defense, who therefore would not wish to cross-examine him. Obviously, it would be a waste of time under the circumstances bringing him to court. However, even though I am reading this statement, his evidence carries just as much weight as evidence that you will hear directly from other witnesses in this case. In fact, more so, because it is not challenged in any way by the defense. The statement is headed Ernest Guthrie, Home Office Pathologist. It reads, at 10:15 on Friday the 30th of June, I was called to Fulchester General Hospital, where the body of Deborah Lester was identified to me by Detective Inspector Ransom. In the course of my post-mortem examination, I observed small pinpoint hemorrhages in the eyelids, a swollen tongue, and suffusion of the entire head. There was also bruising of the face and neck. Further examination revealed vaginal lacerations, and matter found within the vagina was retained for detailed forensic examination. In my opinion, the cause of death was manual strangulation, and the injuries suggest that the young woman had been subjected to violent intercourse immediately prior to her death. I call Terrence Lester.
Will you take the testament in your right hand and read aloud the words on the card?
I promise before the Almighty God to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Hello. Now, your name is Terrence Lester, and you live at number 3 Council Cottages, Pondsworth. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
You're not nervous, are you?
A bit, sir.
Well, there's no need to be, I promise you. How old are you, Terrence?
15, sir.
And Deborah Lester was your older sister?
Yes, sir.
Did you both attend the same school?
Yes, sir.
Which school was that?
Ewley Comprehensive, sir.
In Ewley?
Yes, sir.
Which is 1.5 miles distant from Pondsworth. Tell me, Terrence, how did you and your sister travel home from school?
Well, Dad used to fetch us in the car,
But more recently?
We walked.
Along the road? You needn't be afraid to say, Terrence, and remember you have promised to tell the truth. Did you walk home from school along the road?
Sometimes we walked along the road, but sometimes we took the shortcut across the common.
Was it much shorter?
Quite a bit, sir, yes.
So why didn't you always come home that way?
Because Mum told us not to.
Of course. Now tell me, can you remember how you came home on the 29th of June last year?
That was the day before Debbie was killed.
Yes.
We came across the common.
Who was we?
Well, there was me and Deb, John Adams, Tracy Marshall and Andy Elms.
They are some other children who live in your village.
Yes, sir.
Describe the common to me, Terrence.
Well, it's sort of hilly with lots of bracken and clumps of trees.
Is it a good place for playing games?
What kind of games, sir?
Say, hide and seek, war games, that sort of thing.
plenty of places to hide, if that's what you mean.
Yes, quite. Now, tell me, did anything unusual happen as you walked home across the common on the 29th of June?
Yes, sir.
Can you tell us about it, please?
Yes. Well, Debbie fancied Andy Elms like crazy. And I think he fancied her a bit too, because it was his idea they walked home from school together. The rest of us were just sort of tagging along. Oh, except for Tracy, because she fancied Andy as well. In fact, you could say she was going out with him. I know she didn't like Debbie all that much anyway.
My lord.
Yes, Miss Ashley, I appreciate your concern, but I think we can afford to be a little indulgent. Please carry on, Terrence.
Well, we got about halfway across. No, further than halfway, about 3/4, when Debbie suddenly stopped and said she'd dropped her book and she'd have to go back to look for it. I don't think she had, actually. I think it was just something she said to try and get Andy to go back with her, because Tracy was doing most of the talking.
Did Andy go back with her?
No, he carried on walking with the rest.
And what did you do?
I sat down to wait for Debbie.
How long did you wait?
A long time. About 10 minutes. Then I went back to look for her.
And what did you see?
Well, I got to the top of this hill. Then the path goes down a sort of dip and up the other side. Debbie was coming along the bottom of the dip.
How was she coming? Was she walking? Running?
She was running.
Why was she running?
Because he was chasing her.
Who was chasing her?
That man there.
Your sister was being chased by the man you later identified as David Finch, the defendant.
Yes, sir.
How was he chasing her?
Well, he sort of jumped through the bushes at the top of the hill, like on the other side of the dip. When he saw me, he stopped and glared, like he was really angry.
Why should he be angry?
My lord, it isn't for this witness to speculate as to why the man he saw was angry, if indeed he was.
Just so, Miss Ashley. We'll stick to the facts, if we may, Mr. Marion.
Yes, my lord. What happened then, Terrence?
Well, when Debbie caught up, I asked her who he was. She said he's just a man. I don't know, she seemed sort of... Well, she wouldn't talk about it, and she got cross. She just said he was a horrible man.
A horrible man. Yes. Now, let's move on, shall we, to the afternoon of June the 30th. How did your sister come home from school on that day?
She didn't.
No, forgive me. Which route did she take? The road or the common?
The common.
And how about you? Which route did you take?
The road.
Did you and your sister often go your separate ways after school?
Sometimes. See, I'd run like and wait for Debbie at the lay-by.
Which lay-by is this?
It's where the path across the common comes out, just up from the village.
On the Pondsworth Road?
Yes, sir.
So that's what you did on the afternoon of June the 30th. You ran round the road to meet Deborah at the lay-by.
Yes, sir.
What happened then?
That man was there again.
The same man you'd seen the previous day?
Yes, sir.
Where was he?
In the lay-by.
What was he doing? Just standing there?
No, not then he wasn't. His car was. I got there first.
How did you know that it was his car?
Because he got in it later and drove off.
Go on.
Well, I sat on the grit bin to wait for Debbie.
You sat on the what?
The grit bin, my lord. The lay-by in question has a small bunker filled with chippings for gritting the road in icy weather.
Thank you, Mr. Marion.
Carry on, Terrence. What happened then?
Well, I got bored, so I got up to look at the car.
What sort of car was it?
A red Cortina Estate.
Go on.
Well, I was just looking through the window.
And what did you see?
There was lots of papers on the back seat and 2 bottles of wine in a briefcase. Oh, and a rude magazine.
A rude magazine?
I think so. It had a picture on the front of a lady with no clothes on.
Did you touch the car at all?
No, but that's what he thought I was doing.
Who? You mean the man in the dock?
Yes, he shouted at me to leave it alone. I told him I hadn't touched it. I was only looking.
Where had he come from?
Off the common.
Now, this is very important, Terrence. Did you actually see him coming off the common?
Yes, because he shouted at me while he was still on it.
Was there anything unusual about his appearance?
My lord, that does have a suggestive tone to it.
I can't see why, Miss Ashley.
It was the stress on the word unusual, coupled with a somewhat significant pause beforehand. To an impressionable young mind, that could perhaps constitute a suggestion rather than a question.
I think you're nitpicking, Miss Ashley.
As it please your lordship.
I'll rephrase the question, my lord.
It might help, Mr. Marion.
Terrence, Will you describe Mr. Finch as he came off the common?
Well, his clothes were untidy, and his hair was a mess, and his face was bleeding.
You say his clothes were untidy. What was he wearing?
A sort of blue suit and tie, and a red hanky in his pocket.
Terrence, will you tell the court in what way exactly this man's clothes were untidy?
Well, his jacket was torn, as though he got it caught on some bushes. And I think he'd fell when he'd been running, because his knees were muddy.
His knees were muddy. What made you think that he'd been running?
He was out of breath.
Yes, of course. Did you speak to him at all?
Yeah, I told him I was looking for my sister and asked him if he'd seen her.
And how did he reply?
He told me to clear off, except he used a 4-letter word.
And did you clear off?
No, I went back to sit on the grit bin. He drove off.
And did you ever see him after that?
Only when the policeman took me outside his office.
And did you recognize him then?
Yes, sir.
And later, you were asked to identify him at a formal identification parade. Did you there identify the defendant, David Finch, the man you now see in the dock?
Yes, sir.
Now, this is very important, Terrence. Are you certain, absolutely certain, that the man you saw coming off the common is the same man you identified outside the office, the same man you picked out at the identification parade, and the same man you now see in the dock?
Yes, sir. I'm certain.
Thank you.
Just a few questions, Terrence. You told my learned friend that your dad used to fetch you from school. Why did he stop?
Because he doesn't live with us anymore.
And is there no bus service?
There is, yes, but it's not far enough to get a bus pass. Mum can't afford the fares.
I see. So you walked. Tell me, if it is a shortcut across the common, why didn't you always come that way?
Because we weren't allowed.
Why was that?
Well, Mum said it was because there was a lot of funny people about.
And what sort of funny people did she mean?
Well, flashes and that.
By flashers, you mean men who expose themselves?
Yes, miss.
Have there ever been, to your knowledge, men who've exposed themselves on the common?
Yes, me and Debbie were flashed at last summer.
And what did you do?
We told Mum. That's when she said we weren't allowed to come across the common anymore.
Had you ever seen that man before, or indeed since?
No, miss.
Can you recall on any other occasion, perhaps, when a man indecently exposed himself on the common?
My lord, other than providing material for the lower Sunday newspapers, I can see no object in this line of questioning.
My lord, Ponsworth Common is a most remote and forbidding area. One might suppose that nobody ever goes there. I am trying to establish that the common has been, and indeed is, frequented by sexual deviants who are demonstrably not the defendant.
Yes, I take your point, Miss Ashley, but while I can appreciate the validity of such evidence, I'm a little concerned at the effect your questioning may be having upon a young witness. I think perhaps it'd be better to wait till a later stage when you can put the question to a more suitable witness. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you will note the point learned counsel has made. Carry on.
Yes, my lord. Terrence, you told this court that on the afternoon of the 30th of June, you came home from school by way of the road and that your sister went across the common. Why didn't you go across the common?
Because Mum told us not to.
But that was quite normal, wasn't it? That was the rule she made last summer.
Yes, miss.
And that didn't stop you on the 29th.
No, miss.
So why should it have stopped you on the 30th?
Because Mum had a big go at us the night before.
When Deborah told her about the man chasing her?
No.
She didn't tell her.
No.
Well, did you tell her?
Yes.
But why should you tell her and not Deborah?
Because she wouldn't let me watch Top of the Pops.
Your mother wouldn't let you watch Top of the Pops, so you told her about the man on the common.
No, it was Debbie. Debbie said I mustn't say anything to Mum about the man. Then we had an argument about the television. I said if she didn't let me watch Top of the Pops, I'd tell Mum. She said if I did, she'd thump me.
Why didn't Deborah want to tell her mum?
Because she knew Mum would get into a strop and stop us going across the common again.
Which is what happened.
Yes, miss.
But Deborah still disobeyed that. Do you know why?
She thought she saw Andy, but he was off on a geography field trip. I told Debbie that, but she wouldn't believe me.
She saw somebody she thought was Andy. Did you see him?
Yes, miss.
And what was he wearing, this man?
A sort of leather jacket with an AC/DC badge on the back. I mean, Andy's not into them at all for a start. I told Debbie that as well, but by the time she got her glasses on, he'd gone.
So you saw a man in a leather jacket moving away on the common, and your sister, assuming it to be a school friend, chased after him.
Yes, miss.
How good is your eyesight, Terrence?
Nothing wrong with it, miss.
You say that on the 29th of June, you saw your sister chased by a man. You were standing on one hilltop, and he was on another, and your sister was running along the dip in between.
Yes, miss.
How far apart would you say those hilltops were?
200 metres.
Very precise. 200 meters. And at that distance, your eyesight is good enough to see what a man's face looks like?
I saw him close to the next day.
Did you, though? How could you be sure it was the same man?
He was wearing the same sort of clothes for a start, and he had a red hanky in his pocket.
In other words, what you identified were the clothes, not a man.
No, it was the same man.
Because it's plainly impossible to recognize a face at 200 meters, let alone to see that it's glaring or that it looks angry.
It was the same man. He looked the same.
But how did he look the same if all you could really see were his clothes, which were only the same sort after all?
My lord, I must object to this kind of interrogation. The witness clearly identified Mr. Finch as the man he saw on the common. How he did so would appear to have little relevance, particularly when many aspects of a person's identity register only subliminally.
I think it reasonable that the defense should query an identification, Mr. Marriott.
Indeed. But if it please your lordship, not to harass a youthful witness into total confusion.
Miss Ashley?
My lord, it is central to the defense case that the man alluded to in this inquiry was not, in fact, Mr. Finch, that the prosecution rests principally on faulty identification. Under these circumstances, with all deference to your lordship, the issue is too grave for unnecessary scruples about our witness's youth. Moreover, since the jury is here ultimately to decide whether or not the man on the common was indeed Mr. Finch, it is seriously prejudicial to refer to him as Mr. Finch.
Yes, I think what you say is valid. Perhaps, Mr. Marriott, you would bear that in mind.
But, my lord, insofar as this particular witness identified the defendant as the man he saw, it seems a little absurd referring to him as anyone else.
Yes, but whereas your concern is one of communication, Miss Ashley's objection is to a point of fact. If indeed she is to successfully contest your witness's identification.
As it please your lordship.
Terrence, what did you see that made you think that the man on the common was the man you later identified?
I told you, it was the same man. He looked the same.
And I put it to you that what actually looked the same was a handkerchief, not a man. And that when you identified Mr. Finch at the police station, you were correctly identifying the man you'd seen leaving his office, not the man you'd seen leaving the common. I have no further questions, my lord.
Mr. Marriott?
No further questions, my lord.
Thank you, Terrence. You may stand down. In fact, I see no reason why this witness should not be released. I don't think it would be desirable for him to stay when much of what he would hear could be disturbing.
You are Anthony Rollins, landlord of the White Hart Inn, Ponsworth Road, Homebridge.
Yes, sir.
Am I right in saying that Homebridge is some 3 miles from Ponsworth on the road to Fulchester?
Yes, that's about right.
Tell me, Mr. Rollins, how long have you been landlord at the White Hart?
Oh, 12 years, sir.
12 years. And would you say that most of your business comes from regulars, or do you cater to a passing trade?
Nearly all regulars, sir. Homebridge is really on the road to nowhere since they opened the bypass, 4 years ago. And after Ponsworth, you're more or less into open country.
So you would notice a stranger?
Oh, certainly, no question.
Have you ever seen the defendant, David Finch, before today?
Yes, sir.
When?
On the 30th of June. Happens to be my wife's birthday.
Will you please tell the court the circumstances?
Well, I'd been into Fulchester to get some provisions, and what with the roadworks at Barley Cross, plus a long tailback, I was a bit pushed to get back in time for opening, and nearly didn't make it, in fact. He was there in the car park when I came in, you know, like waiting.
What time was this?
About 5:20. We opened at past.
And he was waiting in his car. What sort of car was it?
A red Cortina Estate.
Did you notice anything unusual?
About the car?
And its occupant?
Oh, yeah, right. The driver was sort of slumped over the wheel. I thought he was asleep at first, and then I see his shoulders sort of going up and down, so I gets to thinking he's ill. So I shunts on over there to see if he needs help. Taps on the window, like, and he looks up.
Yes?
He was crying.
Crying?
Yes, tears and that.
So what did you do?
Well, I asked him if he's all right, and, you know, polite enough, not sort of aggressive or laughing. And he tells me to sod off.
Those were his words?
Yes, sir. Right little charmer, on top of everything else.
Mr. Marriott?
Yes, my lord. Mr. Rollins, if you will just answer the questions, please, without comment.
Yes, of course. Sorry, Your Honour.
So then what did you do?
I went inside, didn't I? Opened up and got on with my job.
Did the defendant come inside?
Not for about half an hour or so. Quite a few others came in before he did. You see, the bus to town leaves at 20 to 7, so they have a few jars while they're waiting. It's quite a busy time, really. Any road, he came in about 6:05, something like that, and sat on a bar stool.
Did you speak to him?
Only to serve him. Hadn't time to chat. See, my evening girl doesn't come on till 7, and the missus, well, she was in bed with hay fever. I know that sounds daft. I spoke to him later after the bus had gone.
What did you say?
Well, he was sitting there dead miserable like, and I figured it'd be maybe help to talk. Well, it's therapeutic, isn't it? It's all part of the publican's role, in a manner of speaking. So I said to him that in all my experience, most problems boil down to one or two things: money or women.
And what did he say?
Well, he ordered a double scotch, so I said, it can't be money the way he's forking out for the art stuff. Ergo, it's got to be a woman. Well, he still don't say nothing, and, you know, mine's a bit drunk by this time. And just then, these girls in the corner, where they laugh, you know, private joke or something. Well, his head spins round, and he looks at them, you know, real vicious, like full of hate.
My lord,
Yes, Mr. Ashley.
must we endure the landlord's opinions?
Indeed, Mr. Rollins, will you please restrict your answers to matters of fact?
But what I said is a fact, Your Honour.
The facts are what you saw and heard. What goes on in a man's mind is a matter for conjecture. And the jury must be allowed to reach their own conclusions. Do you see the difference?
Yes, I suppose so, yes.
Please
Sorry, Your
just
Honour.
answer the question. Carry on, Mr. Madden.
You say some girls laughed, and the defendant spun his head round and looked at them. Did he make any comment?
Yeah, I said to him, you know, I'm trying to jolly him up a bit. I said, well, maybe you ought to try getting to know them.
Who? The girls?
Yes, but they were young and uncomplicated, if you know what I mean. It was just purely man-to-man talk. It didn't mean anything.
And what did he say?
Well, he turned back to the bar and said all they ever wanted was a good... Well, the gist of it was, sir, that they were only interested in sexual relations.
Go on.
So I said to him, still trying to be humorous, I said, well, that can't be all bad, can it?
And?
And he said that if he had his way, he'd strangle the lot of them.
Those were his exact words, were they? That if he had his way, he'd strangle the lot of them.
Yes, sir.
The case of the Queen against Finch will be resumed tomorrow in the Crown Court. The case you're about to see is a fictional one, but the procedure is authentic. The characters are played by actors, but the jury is selected from members of the public. David Finch is on trial for the rape and murder of schoolgirl Deborah Lester. The case is now in its second day, and counsel for the defense is cross-examining Anthony Rollins, a local publican.
Mr. Rollins, you were telling us yesterday of a man who came into your public house.
Yes, you mean the man in the dock?
I mean the man you supposed to be the defendant.
Oh, there's no suppose about it. It was him, all right. No question.
That has yet to be determined, Mr. Rollins. Now, if you will please wait for the question.
Yes, sorry.
This man who came into your public house, you told the court that as a result of your long experience in these matters, you believed him to have woman problems. What sort of problems did you envisage?
Well, argument with the wife, you know, things on On those lines.
And it was his behavior, his tears in the car, his moodiness and preoccupation, those things which brought you to that opinion?
Yes, I suppose so.
Is it an opinion you still hold?
No,
So what changed your mind?
I don't follow.
You thought this man, to use your own words, had had an argument with his wife, and that explained his moody and aggressive behavior. Now you don't hold that opinion. Why?
Well, once I knew what he'd done, it all made sense.
Oh, but isn't your tail wagging the dog, Mr. Rollins? I put it to you that had this tragic crime not taken place, you would have continued in your belief that there was nothing odd or untoward about this stranger, and you would have dismissed him from your mind. Is that not so?
Possibly.
Not just possibly, Mr. Rollins. Certainly. And I would further suggest that in the same way your knowledge of the crime changed your opinion, so it also colored your testimony.
No, it didn't.
And turned a perfectly normal, if unhappy customer into a sinister monster. Is that not true?
No.
My lord, if, as my learned friend supposes, the man who came into the public house was not the defendant, I fail to see why she is so passionate in his defense. It does rather seem to be a case of hedging one's bets.
It has been known before, but I think not, Mr. Meredith. Please continue, Miss Ashley.
Mr. Rollins, this man who came into your public house, describe his appearance, if you will.
He was smartly dressed, I suppose, but like he'd been dragged through a hedge backwards.
He was disheveled. Go on.
Well, that's it. Nothing that a comb and a band-aid wouldn't have put to rights.
And you say he'd been crying. So naturally one would expect his face to be a little drawn, some puffiness around the eyes, yes?
Yeah, maybe. I didn't look that closely.
You didn't look that closely. You didn't look that closely, and yet you presumed to pick him out of an identity parade 2 full days later? When doubtless, if he were the same man, his appearance would almost have certainly have changed considerably. Composure would have returned to his face, his hair would have been brushed.
But I made allowances for that.
For what, Mr. Rollins?
I made
For
allowances for the fact that it was the... You know, he would have looked different. His hair would be brushed and his face would be...
So what you're telling this court is that you made an identification on the basis of an assumption of what he would look like in different circumstances? Is that correct?
It was the same man.
But you just told us that he looked different, that you were guessing what he would look like with his hair brushed and his face composed.
I could still see that it was the same man.
Even though, on your own admission, you didn't look at him too closely. Don't you think that's a rather tenuous basis on which to give testimony? Why did you come forward as a witness, Mr. Rollins?
Because it was my duty as a responsible citizen.
I have no further questions, my lord.
Mr. Meredith?
No further questions, my lord.
Thank you, Mr. Rollins. You may stand down.
You are Derek Ransom, Detective Inspector Fulchester CID, the officer in charge of the investigation and the subsequent arrest of the defendant, David Finch.
I am, yes, sir.
Would you please briefly describe to the court the circumstances?
Yes, sir. At 21:05 hours on Friday, the 30th of June, I was notified that a body had been found in some bracken, 15 metres from the main path that bisects Ponsworth Common. I visited the scene, and later the body was removed to Fulchester General Hospital and was identified to me by Mrs. Janet Lester as her daughter, Deborah. I later identified the body to Mr. Ernest Guthrie, who carried out an immediate post-mortem examination.
Yes, of course. The pathologist whose report we have already heard. Please continue.
Well, acting on information received, and together with Detective Sergeant Robert Cook, I interviewed David Finch at his home at 09:30 hours the following day, the 1st of July. As a result of this interview, I invited Finch to take part in an identification parade, but he refused. I therefore arranged a street identification, and at 17:50 hours the same day, Finch was identified by Terrence Lester, coming out of the offices of Micro Meridian Limited, his place of employment in Leeds. After a second interview, I invited Finch to accompany me to Fulchester Police Station for further questioning, and later he agreed to participate in a formal identification parade and was then identified by the witness Terrence Lester and the witness Anthony Rollins. As a result of further questioning and investigation, I formally charged the defendant at 11:30 hours on the 2nd of July.
In the course of your investigation, did you acquire any physical evidence?
Yes, sir. A pair of underpants was removed from Finch's home and taken for forensic analysis.
Exhibit 1, my lord. Please continue.
And his car, a red Ford Cortina Estate, registration number OAJ476W, was impounded for tests.
Yes. Now, will you please tell the court what was said during your first visit to the Finch household at 9:30 on the morning of the 1st of July?
May I refer to my notebook, my lord?
How soon after the interview were the notes taken?
Within 20 minutes of its conclusion, my lord.
Very well, carry on.
Thank you, my lord. Well, after introducing myself and Detective Sergeant Cook, I told the suspect that we would appreciate some help in eliminating him from our inquiries. And he said, "Inquiries into what?" I told him a crime had been committed, and he replied, "Crime? What crime? I didn't commit a crime." I asked his whereabouts during the afternoon the previous day, and he said, "That's right, I was at Parkerton's with Adrian Curtis." I asked who Parkerton's were, and he replied, "They're a heating firm. I'm setting up some new systems for their offices in Barnsley and Nottingham." I asked which office he was at the previous day, and he said, "Both." Curtis drove me from Barnsley to Nottingham, and we went for dinner and drinks in the evening. I observed a scratch over his left eye and asked him how he'd come by it, and he said, "I was a bit gone when I came home and I waltzed into the rose trellis." Throughout the interview, the suspect was nervous and agitated.
Thank you, Detective Inspector. Did you investigate his claims?
Yes, sir. Parkerton's at Barnsley had been shut since April. And Adrian Curtis is still employed by Parkerton's of Nottingham, but was on holiday in Yugoslavia on the 30th of June.
Did you confront the defendant with that information?
Yes, sir. After his arrest, he said, "Oh, I must have got it wrong. In fact, I did, because yesterday I was in the West Riding looking for new business." I asked how he could so soon forget what he was doing the previous day, and he replied, "I've been under pressure." I then asked if he had been anywhere near Ponsworth Common, and he said, "Where the hell is Ponsworth Common?" I told him it was near Fulchester, and he said, "Ditto Fulchester." I asked what he meant, and he said he'd been in the West Riding all the previous day. I asked him to be more specific, and after that he refused to say anything, sir.
Did you confront him with the results of the forensic tests?
Yes, I said that we had evidence that his car had been parked in a lay-by off the Ponsworth Road.
And what was his reply?
Well, he didn't make one. I then told him that I would have no alternative but to charge him with murder.
Did you then charge him?
Yes, sir.
And what did he say?
Well, after cautioning him, he said, "You're making a big mistake, I promise you. Somewhere out there is the monster who really did this thing."
That was all?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Detective Inspector, what prompted your search for a suspect in Leeds?
We received a phone call, miss.
From whom?
We don't know. The call was anonymous.
I see. Well, let us turn then to something which you should quite legitimately and properly have followed up. An earlier witness spoke of another man on Ponsworth Common during the afternoon of June the 30th, a man wearing a leather jacket with a pop group's motif on the back. Did your investigations include a search for this man?
Yes, miss.
And what form did that search take?
House-to-house inquiries, miss.
And did those inquiries bear fruit?
No, miss.
Are they still being conducted?
No, once I'd charged Mr. Finch, these officers were transferred to other duties.
Now, you say that on the 1st of July, the defendant was identified by Terrence Lester as he came out of his office. Where were you at the time?
In the car park of the offices of Micro Meridian.
You were in the car?
Yes, miss.
You and the boy?
Yes, and his mother, Mrs. Lester.
All in the same car? Well, that's a little close, isn't it? For what is effectively a street identification?
The boy was in the back seat, miss.
Oh, but even so, a slight movement on your part, a stiffening perhaps, could have conveyed itself to the boy and prompted a response.
In the event, I was facing the other way when Finch emerged from the building, and Terrence Lester was obliged to first attract my attention and then point him out to me.
But is it not specified, even in your own police training manual, that police officers should not stand so close to the witness that they might in any way communicate information about the suspect?
Yes, miss.
And yet you were in the same car.
I've explained exactly how it was.
And then if information had been communicated, the identification would have been invalidated, would it not?
If it had been, miss, yes, but it wasn't.
And the formal identification parade, too, would have been invalidated, insofar as Terrence Lester would have merely been identifying the man about whom information had been conveyed earlier in the day.
Both identification parades were valid, miss.
You told us a pair of underpants had been taken from Finch's home. How exactly was this done?
Well, while Detective Sergeant Cook was interviewing Mrs. Finch, I asked if I could relieve myself. There was a laundry basket in the bathroom, and I took the opportunity of searching through it and obtaining the underwear.
So even allowing for the very dubious and illegal means of obtaining the evidence, you have no guarantee that the pants hadn't been there for a week, or I might add that they were indeed the accused pants at all.
I later showed them to the defendant. He admitted they were his and that he'd been wearing them on Friday the 30th of June.
So far as you're concerned, the ends justify the means.
My lord, this really is irrelevant. The detective inspector is not on trial for stealing the underpants.
Indeed, he is not, Miss Ashley.
Detective Inspector, you told this court that when you asked Mr. Finch his whereabouts during the previous day, he replied, "That's right, I was at Parkerton's with Adrian Curtis." And why did he say that's right?
When I was interviewing Finch, he had his wife with him, and she prompted him.
So you said, "Where were you yesterday?" And his wife replied, speaking to the defendant, "You were at Parkerton's." He said, "That's right, I was at Parkerton's with Adrian Curtis." Is that how it happened?
More or less, yes, miss.
So why didn't you say so to the court? After all, it puts a different complexion on the answer, does it not?
I was answering questions on what the defendant had said, miss, not his wife.
Indeed, but if he was lying, as you suggested, he may have been lying to his wife rather than lying to you. Perhaps he told her that he was going to see Adrian Curtis, and when he couldn't, he was embarrassed to tell her.
Perhaps, miss, yes.
Did he seem embarrassed at all in front of his wife?
I wouldn't know, miss.
Oh, but you've noticed that he was nervous and agitated. Are not your powers of observation somewhat selective? Or are they indeed mistaken? Perhaps what you construed as nervous and agitated was straightforward embarrassment.
I described only what I saw, miss.
Very well, let's move on to the police station. Did Mr. Finch there persist in his lie about Adrian Curtis?
No, he didn't say anything at all, until I confronted him with the fact that it was a lie, and then he told a different story.
Did you ask him why he'd lied?
No, miss. I was only aware that he had.
Very well. No further questions, my lord.
I have no re-examination, my lord.
Thank you, Detective Inspector. You may leave the witness box.
Thank you, my lord.
My next witness is Dr. David Parry, but like Mr. Guthrie, I shall read you his evidence. This is a statement of David Parry, Home Office Forensic Scientist, Home Office Science Laboratory, Fulchester. And in conclusion, analysis carried out on controlled samples from both victim and suspect under the ABO system revealed Deborah Lester to be Group O and David Finch to be Group AB. Analysis of a mixed sample taken from the girl's underwear indicated that the semen originated from a Group AB man. These findings were confirmed by the sample taken from Finch's underpants, which was in excess of normal wear and tear. Group AB men represent approximately 3% of the male population. And that is the case for the prosecution, my lord.
I call David Finch. You are David Finch of 17 Hambold Road, Leeds?
Yes.
And you are an office systems representative for Micro Meridian Limited, also of Leeds?
I am.
Are you married, Mr. Finch?
Yes.
Happily?
Not particularly.
I see. Why is that?
I don't know.
Mr. Finch, can you think back to the afternoon of June the 30th of last year and recall what you did on that day?
Yes.
And what did you do?
I tried selling office equipment in the West Riding of Yorkshire.
And were you doing that all day?
Yes.
Did you manage to sell anything?
No.
Can you tell this court what outlets you tried to sell office equipment in?
I can't remember.
I see. But you can state positively that you were in the West Riding of Yorkshire.
Yes.
Did you at any time on the 29th or 30th of June go near Ponsworth Common?
No.
Mr. Finch, murder is perhaps the most serious crime there is. I want you to think most carefully. Have you ever met or had anything whatsoever to do with Deborah Lester?
No.
Is there anything at all you want to say?
Yes. I can tell you that I didn't commit this crime. And I don't see why I should be dragged out of my boring, though legally blameless life, thrown into prison, then brought here to answer a lot of questions and tell the world how I spend my spare time. I was always under the impression a man was innocent until proven guilty. Why should I prove I'm innocent? I know I'm innocent. And nobody can prove what isn't true. So nobody can prove I committed this crime. Seems very simple to me.
I have no further questions, my lord.
Why did you lie to the police about your whereabouts on the 30th of June?
I didn't lie, I made a mistake.
You mean to say you forgot where you were the previous day?
Yes.
And are you asking this court to believe that what you remembered was spending the whole day with Adrian Curtis, of driving from Barnsley to Nottingham, of wining and dining with him in the evening when none of this happened because Curtis was all this while on holiday in Yugoslavia?
I'm not asking this court to believe anything. I'm just answering your questions.
What sort of car do you drive, Mr. Finch?
Cortina Estate.
Colour?
Red.
The same make and colour, in fact, that was seen by 2 witnesses in the Homebridge-Ponsworth area on the 30th of June.
It's a very common car. My firm alone has 12 of them.
But it was your car, Mr. Finch, that was seen in a lay-by on the Ponsworth Road.
What's the question?
Can you then deny that you were in that lay-by when the evidence suggests that you were?
The evidence doesn't prove I was anywhere. It simply suggests that my car might have been in a lay-by.
Oh, I see. You are telling the court that someone else drove your car to Ponsworth.
No.
Then just what are you telling the court?
I shouldn't be here.
Let's try another tack. Forensic tests show that the man who raped Deborah Lester came from a group that represents only 3% of the male population. That's a 1 in 30 chance. What conclusion would you draw from that?
That if there were only 30 men in the country, then I might have been that one. But there aren't, so what you're saying is pretty meaningless.
So how do you explain the quantity of semen in your underwear, which, according to Dr. David Parry, an expert in these matters, was in excess of what is normal?
I'd recently made love.
You had recently had sex, Mr. Finch, but I put it to you that precious little love was involved.
That might be true, but it doesn't prove I raped anybody.
So how do you explain this excess? With whom did you have sex?
That's my business.
It is also the business of this court. Please answer the question.
I'm a married man.
So you are suggesting that you had sex with your wife on the 30th of June?
Perhaps I can't remember.
When do you normally have sexual relations with your wife?
At night?
In bed?
Yes, that's fairly normal, I think.
And is it fairly normal to put your underpants on afterwards?
Yes, I normally go to the fridge for a glass of milk.
And is that what you did on the night of the 30th of June?
No.
Then what did you do?
I slept with a prostitute.
Oh, so you can remember.
Yes?
And can you remember this prostitute's name?
I don't think I ever knew it.
Can you remember where she lived?
No.
Or even in what town she lived?
Yes, it was Leeds, but I was very drunk.
Drunk, but evidently not incapable.
Drink doesn't affect me like that. And for the record, I'd like to state I don't normally make a habit of sleeping with prostitutes.
So, you are telling the court that on the 30th of June, you slept with a prostitute whose name you never knew and whose address you were too drunk to notice?
Yes.
Mr. Finch, 2 witnesses have sworn to the fact that you were in Homebridge and Ponsworth on the 30th of June. One of them told us you were disheveled and bleeding. Are they both lying? Are they both lying, Mr. Finch?
No.
They're not lying. Are they telling the truth?
Yes.
So you were on Ponsworth Common on the 30th of June, and you were seen to be breathless, disheveled, and bleeding.
Yes.
What were you doing there, Mr. Finch?
Just a moment, Mr. Meredith. Mr. Finch, am I to understand now that you were in the Ponsworth area?
Yes.
Then you have been deliberately lying to this court?
Yes.
Well, that in itself is a very serious crime and one that I take great exception to. I will not tolerate the needless waste of court time and public money brought about by perjury. If there's any more of it, I will take the requisite action. Is that understood?
Yes, sir.
Be sure that it is. Carry on, Mr. Meredith.
Mr. Finch, what were you doing on Pondsworth Common?
I went to see a lady.
What lady?
The lady I love.
Does she have a name, an identity?
Yes.
Then what is it?
If I were prepared to say that, I would have said so a long time ago.
And why are you not prepared to say that?
Because she's married and I don't want to cause her any trouble.
But, Mr. Finch, you could be in very serious trouble yourself. How can this court possibly believe what you say if you're not even prepared to name the lady?
I don't care what this court believes, and I don't care how much trouble I'm in. I've told you the truth. I didn't rape or kill anybody. And if you prove that I did, then I'll just be another victim of a useless judicial system. Now, that's all I've got to say.
My lord, the defendant is clearly very distressed, and we obviously have a new and vital element here which needs to be explored.
Are you asking for an adjournment?
I am. And if your lordship please, I should like leave during that adjournment to speak with the defendant.
It is highly irregular, but under the exceptional circumstances, I will allow it.
Thank you, my lord.
And if this woman exists, I require that she be found.
The case of the Queen against Finch will be concluded tomorrow in the Crown Court. The case you're about to see is a fictional one, but the procedure is authentic. The characters are played by actors, but the jury is selected from members of the general public who will retire at the end of the trial to reach their verdict. David Finch is being tried for the rape and murder of schoolgirl Deborah Lester. After an adjournment to trace the witness Anne Meredith, the case has now reached the third day, and counsel for the prosecution is resuming his cross-examination of the defendant.
Mr. Finch, you told the court that you met Mrs. Meredith on the afternoon of the 29th of June. Now, she will say that she was elsewhere. How can you account for that?
Very easily. She always had an alibi for her husband, and I suppose she'll stick to it.
How do you mean?
Well, as I recall, on the 29th of June, she told her husband she was going to London to do some shopping. In point of fact, it was a friend who went to London.
A friend?
Yes. When Anne and I were together, she'd often get one of her friends to buy something in London for her. On that occasion, I suppose it was a blouse or something, and she presented it to her husband as though she'd bought it. Anne was very good at that sort of thing.
Just answer the questions, please, without comment. I'd like you to think back to the afternoon of the 30th of June. You say you went to Pondsworth Common in the hope of seeing Mrs. Meredith.
Yes,
At what time had you arranged to meet her?
at 2:30.
And you say you arrived very soon after that.
Yes,
Fine. Now, you came off the common about 25 minutes after 5 to 4, which is when Hewley Comprehensive School closes. Because that is when the witness, Terrence Lester, saw you at the lay-by.
yes,
So, you were on Pondsworth Common for over 1.5 hours. What were you doing during all that time, Mr. Finch?
I don't know. Looking for Anne, I suppose.
For 1.5 hours? Knowing that she wasn't there? Do you really expect the court to believe that, Mr. Finch? I have no further questions.
Mr. Finch, as his lordship wisely pointed out, perjury is a very serious offence. Will you please explain to the court why you felt it necessary to lie about your whereabouts on the 29th and 30th of June last year?
I didn't want to involve Mrs. Meredith and cause any trouble between her and her husband.
In spite of the fact that you might be in very serious trouble yourself.
Yes. Maybe I'm naive enough to believe that innocent people don't get convicted of crimes they didn't do. And I didn't and still don't see why 2 marriages have to suffer to prove that point.
So you lied in order to protect your respective marriages?
Yes.
When did you first meet Mrs. Meredith?
August, year before last.
And where was that?
My local squash club. We'd both been let down by our partners, and we got to chatting in the club room.
By local, you mean in Leeds?
Yes, she used to live there, but her husband changed his job in November, and they moved to Fulchester just before that Christmas.
And when did you first make love to her?
That November. She had the house to herself for about 6 weeks.
I see. And after that, how did you go about seeing her?
She'd phone me at the office, and we'd arrange to meet somewhere.
And how often did that happen?
At first, 2 or 3 times a week. Then towards the end, I was lucky if I saw her once a fortnight.
The end being in June of last year?
Yes.
And you never got in touch in any other way?
No, she did give me a number and an address, but was adamant that I never use it.
In case her husband found out?
Yes.
Now let's move on to the 29th of June. What did you do then?
Well, Anne phoned the day before, and I arranged to meet her at Barley Cross at 2 o'clock. That was on the 29th. And we met, and it was a beautiful day, so I just drove until we found a secluded spot. It just happened to be Ponsworth Common.
And was that the first time you'd been there?
Yes.
Please, continue.
Well, I'd got moody and depressed, I suppose, because what had started out as a laugh had become much more serious. I became very attached to Anne. I still am. But I was aware of it.
Aware of what, Mr. Finch?
Of being miserable and that it was putting her off. And on that particular day, I decided to try and snap out of it. I was determined to be really cheerful. But she was very cool and distant, and it didn't work. So we walked across the common, and then we tried to make love. But the mood was all wrong, and she said 1 or 2 hurtful things, and then we saw this girl spying on us.
What girl is this?
Well, in view of what's been said, I presume it was the girl that was killed. But I don't know. I'm not saying it was. All I'm saying is that this, coming on top of what for me had been a very humiliating experience, it was all too much.
What was too much?
Being spied on by a schoolgirl.
So what did you do?
I lost my rag. It was only a momentary thing. I chased her and she ran off.
And that was when you were seen by her brother, Terrence Lester?
Well, I presume so. I don't know. I didn't actually see anyone else. If he says I glared at him, then maybe I did. But I wasn't aware of it.
Please, go on.
Well, I went back to where I'd left Anne, and she said she wanted me to drive her back to Barley Cross, and that she wanted out of the relationship.
Did she give a reason?
She said it was exhausted.
What was?
The relationship. But I didn't agree, and while I was driving her back, I suppose I made a bit of a fool of myself.
In what way?
Well, I pleaded. Grovelled would be a better word. I begged her not to go, but she said she had to get Graham's dinner. That's her husband. But that wasn't true anyway, because he never got home before 7. Finally, she said she might see me the next day, but wouldn't promise anything. I said I'd pick her up again at Barley Cross, and she said no, that if she came, she'd drive herself over and park in the lay-by on the Ponsworth Road. I didn't say anything after that for fear of changing her mind.
Let's move on, shall we, to the next day, the 30th of June. What did you do then?
I drove to Ponsworth Common, but I made the mistake of going through Barley Cross again, and there was a big roadworks which made me late. And when I got to the lay-by, her car wasn't there, and I didn't know whether she'd been and gone or simply changed her mind.
So what did you do?
Well, it sounds silly, but I suppose I conned myself into believing that she'd parked somewhere else and that I'd find her in the spot where we'd been the day before. But of course she wasn't there.
Now, the witness, Terrence Lester, said that when he saw you, you were in a disheveled state, that your face was bleeding and your knees were muddy. Can you explain that?
Yes, I fell over.
How?
This really does sound stupid, but when I saw that Anne wasn't there, I got a bit frantic and I started running around looking for her.
In spite of the fact that reason told you she wasn't there?
I couldn't accept it. I couldn't bring myself to believe that it was over and that I might never see her again. I know it sounds silly, but that's how I felt.
Would you say that she had become an obsession then?
Yes.
Just one little point to clear up, Mr. Finch. In his testimony, Terrence Lester mentioned a rude magazine in the back of your car. Exhibit 5, my lord, may the witness be shown it. Since this might convey to the jury a particular impression of you, can you explain what this magazine is?
Yes, it's a trade journal. It's called Offices Today, and my firm were running a full-page advertisement in it. I don't know why they feel it necessary to put a naked woman on the cover, but they always do.
Thank you. And finally, did you at any time on the afternoon of June the 30th see the schoolgirl, Deborah Lester?
No. Apart from the boy, I didn't see anyone else at all.
Thank you, Mr. Finch.
Mrs. Meredith, can you tell me what you were doing on the afternoon of the 29th of June last year?
Yes, I was in London shopping. I caught the 9:30 train from Fulchester and arrived back just after my husband at 7 in the evening.
And on the afternoon of the 30th of June?
I went to London again, this time in the car with my husband. We took a friend to Heathrow Airport and stayed on in the evening to see a show.
So, on neither day were you on or anywhere near Ponsworth Common?
I don't recall ever being on or near Ponsworth Common. In fact, until I was approached about this business, I'd never even heard of the place.
Can you tell me how it is you are so definite about your movements last June?
I keep a diary.
Do you have this diary with you?
Yes, my lord.
May I see it?
Certainly.
Thank you. Carry on, Mr. Meredith.
Thank you, Mrs. Meredith. Finally, have you ever had an affair with the defendant, David Finch?
No.
Is he a friend of yours?
No.
Have you ever met him or been introduced to him?
No.
Have you ever seen him before today?
No.
Thank you, Mrs. Meredith. You've been most helpful.
Mrs. Meredith, how long have you been married?
11 years.
11 years. You must have been a very young bride, if you don't mind my saying so.
Not at all. Thank you.
And you have one child, I believe, a boy born last December?
Yes.
And has it been a happy marriage?
Very much so.
And would you say your marital relations have been good?
I would say I've had an adequate sex life. Whether or not it's been good in the absolute sense, I really can't say, insofar as I have no other with which to compare it.
So you've always been faithful to your husband?
My lord, I fail to see any justification for subjecting the witness to these kinds of questions.
I think the question is a valid one, Miss Meredith, though I do hope you won't unduly prolong this inquiry, Miss Ashley.
I shall be as succinct as possible, my lord. Mrs. Meredith, do you have a mole on the underside of your right breast?
My lord, neither can I see how Mrs. Meredith's embarrassment can advance my learned friend's case.
Having a mole isn't necessarily embarrassing, Mr. Marriott. Indeed, I have several, but never to my knowledge have they proved an impediment, and I don't think that the purpose of the defense's question is in any kind of doubt.
No, my lord.
Mrs. Meredith, do you have a mole on the underside of your right breast?
Yes.
And can you suggest to the court how the defendant may have acquired this piece of information about you, if he is indeed a complete stranger, as you would have us believe?
I don't know. Perhaps he's a peeping Tom. Or maybe he was in Saint-Tropez at the same time in the summer. Or perhaps he knows my mother and she mentioned it in passing.
Yes, of course. A wealth of possibility. I see you are wearing a locket. Would I be right in conjecturing that there are two pictures inside? One of your husband and one of your niece, your sister's daughter, aged 14 months?
Yes.
And would your mother have mentioned that also in passing to the defendant? Assuming, of course, that she knows him. Or did you leave the locket open, perhaps, in Saint-Tropez? I have many more questions, Mrs. Meredith. I put it to you that you not only know the defendant, but that you know him intimately as he evidently knows you. Shall I continue with the questions?
No.
Do you admit, then, that you know the defendant, David Finch?
Yes.
Speak up, please, Mrs. Meredith. Did you say you do admit knowing the defendant?
Yes, my lord.
During the course of this trial, I have already had occasion once to say this, and I do not intend saying it again. I must warn you most severely that you are under oath. And I will not tolerate perjury in this court. Do you understand?
Yes, my lord.
Carry on, Miss Ashley.
Mrs. Meredith, will you please tell the court what sort of relationship you had with the defendant, David Finch?
I don't have a relationship with him. I went out with him on 2 or 3 occasions, and that is all.
And you made love to him?
Yes.
Ponsworth Common, Mrs. Meredith. Did you ever go there with the defendant?
Yes.
When?
Oh, a long time ago. Spring last year.
Can you be more specific? After all, in this country, spring sometimes lingers on until June.
No, much before that. The last time I saw him was over a year ago, March, I think.
And when did you stop taking the birth control pill?
There's no way he could have known that.
You've already told the court that you have a 3-month-old baby. It's simply a matter of arithmetic. When did you stop taking the pill?
In March.
Why?
My lord, I must protest again. My learned friend is encroaching on areas that can have no bearing on this case.
Yes, I shall be interested to see where you are taking us, Miss Ashley.
If it please your lordship, we shall arrive very shortly.
Please see that we do.
Why did you come off the pill, Mrs. Meredith?
Because I wanted a baby.
You wanted a baby or your husband?
We both did.
And when did you learn that you were pregnant? When did you learn that you were pregnant?
The results of the test came through on June the 26th.
And of course they were positive.
Yes.
Whose baby is it, Mrs. Meredith?
My husband's, of course it is.
Really? You see, I put it to you that you don't know whose baby it is.
That's absurd.
And that when you learned you were pregnant, you were so afraid that you determined to put as much distance between yourself and your lover as you possibly could.
That's not true.
And that is why on June the 29th, when you claim you were in London just 3 days after the results of your tests, you met on Ponsworth Common and told him you didn't want to see him again.
And that's where your grand theory goes right out the window, because you've got it all wrong. I left David because he was pathetic, wimpish, and incredibly boring. His baby. He couldn't even do it.
Oh. Are you telling this court that the defendant, David Finch, is impotent? Mrs. Meredith, is the defendant impotent?
Yes.
Thank you, Mrs. Meredith. I have no further questions, my lord.
Mrs. Meredith, you say the defendant was impotent. Yet earlier on, you mentioned making love with him. Is the court then to understand that his impotence was not total?
The last few times we were in that sort of situation, he was unable.
But not before?
No.
Did he ever discuss this problem with you?
Yes, at very tedious length. It really was not that important to me. If that had been the only thing about him that changed, I could...
In what ways did he change?
In every way imaginable. He went from being a confident, successful, outgoing person who was fun to be with to being moody and suspicious and, I don't know, he just went to pieces.
I see. Thank you, Mrs. Meredith. I have no further questions, my lord.
You may stand down, Mrs. Meredith.
You see, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the facts do not bear out the defendant's story. So what are the facts? Firstly, on the afternoon of the 29th of June, the defendant was seen chasing Deborah Lester. The following day, Deborah's body was found. She had been raped and murdered. The defendant was seen leaving the scene of the crime. His face was bleeding, his clothing disheveled. He was later seen, drunk and distressed, only 3 miles away. Did he admit to any of this? No. He lied. He lied to the police, and he lied to this court. And what of the forensic evidence? 1 man in 30, ladies and gentlemen. Only 1 man in 30 could have committed this crime, and the defendant is amongst that number. They are the facts. Now, what about his story? He says he went there to see Anne Meredith. Anne Meredith says he did not. Now, I am not suggesting that he never went to Ponsworth Common with that lady. He most certainly did, but not in June. Just consider. The defendant has been on remand for 10 months. 10 months, during which he has had time to consider all the escape routes, all the ways in which he might wriggle out of a conviction. And I put it to you that that is what he has done. He has dredged his brain to come up with something that might in some way explain his unquestioned presence on Ponsworth Common on the afternoon of June the 30th. And this is the story he has concocted. And consider, even in the unlikely event that what he says is true, even if he did go to Ponsworth Common to meet that lady, what was he doing there for 1.5 hours? No, even in that extreme contingency, the facts remain, the forensic evidence still stands. And I put it to you that even if that were true, in his frustration and rage, he vented his feelings on the first person who came along. And that person was the unfortunate schoolgirl, Deborah Lester. No, whichever way you look at it, the facts declare themselves. And there is only one true assessment of those facts which you can make. And that is to find the defendant, David Finch, guilty of rape and murder.
Consider then, members of the jury, the reaction of Deborah Lester on the 29th of June. The prosecution have hinted that David Finch tried perhaps to attack her then, that he chased her, and that only the presence of her brother Terrence gave him pause. But if that were the case, why did she not tell her mother? Why was she not scared to cross the common the next day? The reason is that what the defendant said is true. Young Deborah happened on a couple making love, or trying to. She was not afraid, embarrassed perhaps, or even disgusted, but not afraid. Or certainly no more afraid than if, say, she'd been caught scrumping apples or engaged in some other mild mischief. No, members of the jury. The last thing on David Finch's mind that afternoon was schoolgirls. He was besotted with love, an unrequited love. And so he has continued these last months, unwilling to betray that love even to the point of conviction and life imprisonment. Infidelity is not a legal issue, nor is the defendant's adultery the business of this court. It was a web in which a sad man was caught, and of which this trial is the consequence. And consider also that David Finch wasn't the only man on Ponsworth Common that afternoon. There was another, a man in a leather jacket with a pop group's motif on the back. A man after whom Deborah Lester chased in the belief that it was her boyfriend. What explanation has that man got for being on the common? No. Guilt must be proved, ladies and gentlemen. And unless there is absolutely no shadow of a doubt in your mind, there is only one verdict you can bring, and that is not guilty.
While certainly reprehensible, the fact that the defendant lied to this court does not automatically imply that he is guilty. What determines that are the facts themselves. Deborah Lester was certainly raped and murdered on June the 30th. And the defendant was certainly in the area at that time and is unable to account for an hour and a half of his time. The forensic evidence, while strongly indicative, is not conclusive. And then there is the fact that David Finch was not the only man abroad on Ponsworth Common that afternoon. In the final analysis, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, it is for you and you alone to decide the issue. If, after considering the evidence, you conclude that what the defendant has said is true, then you will return a verdict of not guilty. If, on the other hand, you conclude that the prosecution has proved its case, then you will return a verdict of guilty. Now, in this case, the indictment contains 2 counts, rape and murder, and each has to be considered separately, and each requires a separate verdict, although, of course, that verdict may be the same. You will now retire and consider your verdict.
Members of the jury,
Will your foreman please stand? Please answer this question, yes or no. Have you reached a verdict on which you are agreed?
Yes.
On the first count of the indictment, that of rape, do you find the defendant guilty or not guilty?
Not guilty.
On the second count of murder, do you find the defendant guilty or not guilty?
Not guilty.
The defendant may be discharged.